Welcome to Corks and Conversation with Laurie Stevens.
Yes, I'm so looking forward to talking to her, Kathy. I mean, she sounds like she has an interesting life, and her Gabriel McRae character is this whole series is very addicting.
Yeah.
And I want to ask her also about that fact that she's a hybrid author, what she calls a hybrid author.
Yeah. I'm very interested in that too. I think lots of people are going to be. And I love this book and I can't wait to get into it with her. But first, let's talk about Laurie herself. As Christy
Okay.
said, she is the author of the Gabriel McRae thriller series. I'm holding up the latest that we're going to be talking about today in
I'll hold it up
Twilight's
too
Hush.
so you can.
Yeah. It's a pretty creepy cover. Pretty creepy.
I know, it's
Her
reflecting
books
funny.
Her books have won 12 awards, among them the Kirkus Review's Best of, a Random House Editor's Book of the Month. I mean, this is a pretty new series, and she's won a lot of awards. In regards to writing thrillers, Suspense magazine says Laurie is the leader of the pack of writing psychological suspense. Not bad, right?
Hmm.
She co-edited the 2019 Sisters in Crime anthology called Fatally Haunted. She's written short stories that have appeared in numerous anthologies and magazines. She is an active member of Mystery Writers of America, International Thriller Writers, Sisters in Crime, and she lives where her books are set in the hills outside of Los Angeles with her husband, two snakes, which I do have an issue with, and we're going to have to
Oh,
discuss.
we're going to have to ask about
Yeah,
that.
and a cat. So, with that, Laurie, thank you for being with us. It's so nice to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yay!
Great, yay.
All right,
So,
Christy.
the first thing first, we're talking about the wine. And Lori, you suggested this Tapiz. That's what I'm going to go with. Tapiz Malbec.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is from Argentina, and it's Spanish for tapestry, which if you could
Oh.
see the label, it kind of it looks like little different squares, like a tapestry maybe or something. But they have the fruit, the land, the sun, and the workers. That's what those symbols are for.
Cool.
Yeah, it's
Good
kind of cool.
homework.
But what I like is this big 93 because
Yeah.
93s are good, at least according to what's his first name? James Stuckart. James Stuckart likes to talk about wines and rate them, and anything over 90 is good. So 93 is really good, and so it's a great wine to ease back into drinking wine after January. So it has, go ahead and taste it, you guys. It's got
Okay.
red fruits with blackberries and plums, and they're interspersed with aromas of flowers and spicy notes.
Yeah, it's good.
And there's
It is
oak
really
aging
good.
provides vanilla and toasted almond notes, balanced and voluminous.
Mm,
Mm.
yeah. And I love a Malbec anyway, but that is very nice.
It's a
Yes.
nice one.
I think Robert Stuckart was right. Delicious. Delicious.
Good choice, Laurie.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, let's get into and talk about our Gabriel McRae. And this is the latest. It's called In Twilight's Hush. And in this is the fourth entry. He is investigating a cold case involving a missing teenager from 1988. And as he's investigating this, he has a little competition. He has a celebrity psychic that also is drawn to the case, let's say. He's having all kinds of strange dreams, nightmares. He's getting married.
This poor guy, he's got a lot going on.
He's got some things going on. And he realizes that this cold case is not nearly as cold as one would think. So I want to start talking about Detective McRae. I think, first of all, I love Gabriel as a name. I think that's great. My other favorite series is features Gabriel Alon from Daniel Silva. So I love that.
I know, that's what I kept thinking every time. I was like, oh, this is
Love that.
Gabriel Alon.
Yeah.
I like that name.
So, LA kind of a gritty detective with some pretty difficult background. I kept thinking Harry Bosch. This reminds me of Harry Bosch. And as I read it, I mean, there were some similarities, right? There's a lot of dark and then light, right? So he's a gritty detective who's seen some pretty hard things in life. He's getting married. He likes
Yeah, so
gardening.
you have a little bit of his personal life, blending in, kind of like
Yeah.
Harry Bosch did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting.
So where did he come from in your imagination? Where did this detective come from?
I, I just was trying to imagine sort of a macho type cop who had a little bit of a broken history inside, and this sort of tough guy persona was totally hiding something. And I kind of built the character around that in the first book, which is, let me see if I can grab it, this one. He's really messed up in this book, The Dark Before Dawn. And
No offense, Gabriel, but you got some issues.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, from the first book to the fourth book is, you just go through his entire progression. And it's always been, mental health has always been very important to me. It's one of the charities that I support is the San Fernando Valley Center for Mental Health. And I just feel that I wanted to write about a character that I could really get into his psyche and show someone coping from victim to survivor and do all the steps. And I was interested in that myself. So I hit up a lot of psychiatrists that I knew, and some of them, everyone's a writer in LA, so even psychiatrists. So I'm like, I'll edit your book and I'll help you out, but can you give me? And people gave me boxes of research material.
Oh my
I
gosh.
have a friend who, in fact, I did edit her book, and she is a psychologist who specialized in trauma of that sort, and she gave me textbooks and things that I'm sure she was happy to clean out her garage.
I know. There's an ulterior motive there.
Yeah, and I've taken a lot of professionals out to dinner and wined and dined to research, because it was very important to me to get the research right on. And the best compliment I ever got was a guy who wrote me and people who've heard me talk have heard this a million times, so I'm sorry I repeat.
It's new to us.
It's new to us.
He wrote me via his mother, because you can't write someone from prison, but he's serving time. But he wrote and he said that in the prison system, they don't really do anything but offer medication. There's really no therapy. You don't sit down with a therapist. And he found the therapy in the books, in the 4 books, to be very helpful to him.
Interesting.
And that was like a very nice compliment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is great.
Yeah. So
I definitely could see that you like really, I felt like, oh yeah, I'm learning stuff and you knew your stuff. It wasn't just like kind of superficial. And I find it very interesting that you wrote the main character of a man.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Because usually we kind of, are always channeling women, but I didn't feel like I felt like you did a really good job of doing a man, because mental health with men is often, kind of taboo and things like that. And he seemed to, you covered that, how he was fighting it. And then he, decided, okay, I need to get better. So it was really good how you did that. And do you know a guy that needed mental health work?
No, I wanted to make the character a male, because I think that women fall into the role of victim it's a role that we know, and it's more accepted by society. Of course, there's rape victims, there's abuse, women of domestic violence. It's very easy to understand a woman, but I wanted to, these things happen to men too. And I wanted, for some reason, when you talk about channeling a character, the character just came in male, and
Interesting.
it suited me fine, because at the time I was doing all my research was before like the church scandals and everything of the sexual abuse, and so male abuse in that way was very underserved by psychotherapy. And the idea that if you're a man and you do get abused, you must not be much of a man. And that was sort of society's outlook to it.
I think it's still present today in a lot of ways.
I hope it's better. I mean, I
think it is better, but I think it's interesting. You know, they always kind of say, okay, this abuse victim, and it seems like they're always talking about women. So I think that's a unique take. I like that.
I think the other, another layer to his character is, yes, abuse victim, male, cop. And, we expect our cops to be above need, of their own. And that's so unrealistic. And I mean, what any cop would see, even if they come with a healthy background on a daily basis, requires, one would think, a therapeutic approach on a regular basis. And unfortunately, I don't think that that's nearly readily enough for just their interactions. But so when you add into somebody who's already come into this, kind of system where we're all good and we're fine, we have to take care of everybody else. That's a really multifaceted approach.
Yeah, I mean, you hear, it's funny because in the first book, I mentioned that he was on suspension for police brutality. And then nowadays you're hearing it's just so much in the forefront where these things are making the news. And I'm not trying to excuse it at all, but there might be something behind a person acting out like that. Of course, and to your point, Cathi, when you said that, are they getting the help that they need to cope with their daily stresses? We don't know. So this sort of, I mean, when you ask the question, where did the character come from? It's kind of all of that.
Yeah. Well, that's why he's so rich. I mean, I think there's so much to him. And as a reader, I found him to be a very attractive character in many different ways that I think it's because of the nuances and the layers that you've built into him. So especially because for me, I'm new to the series. I'm going back now, just saying. I'm sure everyone will want to, because I want to see, like you said, he was really a mess in the first one. I'd love to see that progression and that growth. That's always really fun.
Yeah.
So, one thing that you're known for is writing, well, I guess you tell me the term. Is it psycho thrillers or psychological thrillers?
I call it psychological suspense.
Psychological suspense. And so tell us how that's nuanced, because I get overwhelmed by all of those different classifications.
Well, a thriller, I think the easiest way to put it would be a thriller would be like someone rushes in and says, there's a bomb somewhere in this room and everyone in the room is locked in and we're all going to die unless the hero finds it and disarms it. That's a thriller. A psychological thriller would be, we're all locked in a room and the hero's there and the hero has to get the bomb, but the hero is claustrophobic, so doesn't like being locked in the room with everybody and is struggling with that. And that's the difference, I guess.
That's really good.
You have someone who's freaking out while they're having to disarm the bomb.
It reminds me of I just watched the Da Vinci Code. Remember how Robert Langdon, the protagonist, is claustrophobic, and he's like, it opens and he's in the elevator and you think he's going to pass out just from being in the elevator.
Oh yeah, I remember
and you
that.
think, well, this isn't going to go well. There's a dead body. You can't handle an elevator. How are you going to handle a dead body? Sorry.
Yeah, that's a psychological element.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, so that has a little bit.
So much more fun, to add that psychological element in it, because then your characters can be as just wacky as you want them to be.
Right. 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 All right. So are you continuing on this series or I'm jumping ahead, but I'm just curious.
Well, I've been asked to write a fifth, and I will, but but I actually have changed genres. I've skipped a little bit. I'm
Ooh,
writing.
exciting.
Actually, I finished it, a young adult sci-fi. So for me, it's a real jump because I didn't intend it to be sci-fi, but my editor was looking at it and said, "This is a young adult book," and it's got. To me, it wasn't sci-fi because what I did, I love research, as you can tell from the Gabriel McRae book.
Boxes.
Yeah, so I've been doing a lot of research on all the technical advancements that we're going to be seeing in the next maybe 25, 50 years. And boy, it's happening really fast and it blows your mind. And so I've just set a book in that time, and it's just what happens with people as they get very dependent on artificial intelligence, and
Oh, yeah.
what happens to them, and then what happens to them when they don't have it anymore. And that's all.
Oh, that's going to be good.
Okay, that was
That's
a
going to be
really
good because honestly, I think those things too, I'm like, oh my
that was a
goodness.
really good pitch, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh,
Everyone's
thank
like,
you.
Good
order.
pitch. We're publishing.
Order.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so I think it's perfect time to take a little drink of wine and segue into the question in the bottle. It's a question, Laurie, that might come up when you get towards the bottom of a bottle. We pick a random question, and of course, if you don't care for it, you can just pass. But no one ever has, so we just want you to know that. Oh yeah, she's boring.
Oh, this is a nice one. This is a very nice one.
You're scaring me. I need
No. It's not scary. It's not scary. Okay. So if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be? And I want to add why. That wasn't on the question, but I want to know why.
Okay. I don't need to sound idiotic, but I would probably continue just wearing where I'm living. I just wish it would rain more. I've traveled a lot of places, and I've seen places, and there's so many times that I just go, I want to live here. Oh my God, could you imagine living here? You're in Europe somewhere. Of course you want to live in that place. And I guess in my fantasies, maybe on a lake somewhere or on a beach somewhere. But I live in the hills, and I really love the mountains. I go hiking a lot. So I have to say I like where I'm at. There's things
that's
I'd love
refreshing.
there's things I'd love to change. I could really knock off some of the drivers that cut me off.
It's a very LA thing.
But
South Florida's like that too. It's scary.
Yeah, but
we have here.
I do like the hills. I love the mountains, and I love hiking in them. We are suffering the effects of drought, and that's sad, but I don't believe in running away. I think you have to try to, I also volunteer for an environmental group, a resource conservation district of the Santa Monica Mountains. And that to me, I think it's important to give back in many ways. And for me, that helps me support the environment. So that's how I look at it.
Have you built your house to be protected, or do you have mitigation things from fire around you, or is that no?
We are in a high fire zone. I've gone through 2 major forest fires, two major, where we've climbed up the top of our hill, and we've seen a wall of flames just heading.
Oh my gosh,
so
scary.
The cops have pounded on the door saying there's embers flying everywhere. You got to cut out. And we would just pack our cars, get out of town. One time we were out for 6 days, and I was seeing on the news, they were announcing our address on the news. And I'm like, I looked at my husband and I said, well, there goes everything. And it's a really weird thing when you think about losing everything you have, everything,
right?
Every scrapbook, every memento, every piece of clothing. And it's weird also when you pack up, for evacuating, because I took a new pair of shoes that had high heels. I'm like, why are you wearing? you're wearing sweats and you're glued to the television watching the fire. You don't need high heels.
Wow.
And so I've learned
I think
that
I would get like a trailer, like one of those trailers, and just have all my, like mementos in that trailer. And so when anybody's over and we're like, oh, where's that yearbook? I'll go out to the trailer and get it. And
Right.
then when the fire comes, I'll just hook it on the trailer hitch and
That's a really strange reality to live with, I bet.
yeah,
It
that's
is.
tough.
It gives you an interesting perspective.
Mhm.
You can make your house, don't plant palm trees, they go up like torches.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
there's things you can do to mitigate a little bit. We
Mm-hmm.
we do a mandatory brush clearance every year, every June, and you have to clear at least 100 feet away. But now they have new interesting things about that. They found that fires, when they get on their own volition, they'll just swoop. And if there's nothing to stop them, like you've gotten rid of all the brush, that actually can make it worse sometimes.
Oh, interesting. Oh my
So
goodness.
crazy. So we have a
Yeah.
lot of oak trees. Oak trees are your friend.
Oh,
Oh, okay. I like
Are
oak.
your friend. You
oak
wanna
trees
put
are good because they absorb so much more moisture from the ground, from the roots, or why are they fire retardant? I wonder.
They're hardy trees and they will battle the blaze for you. So instead of that whooshing action that you'll get these oak trees sort of battling the blaze. The fire sort of has to deal with them, and they're pretty hardy. A lot of times oak trees can stand up as long as their
Yeah.
crown isn't burned. They can.
We have oaks down here. We have live oaks and they do good in hurricanes, actually.
Do they?
So,
See,
mhm.
oak tree.
Oak trees,
They're
everybody.
hardy.
Glass to them.
Okay, let's have a drink. Onward. I want to
Okay.
hear. I want to hear about this whole publishing thing, Christy. I'm very curious.
I know. Because I know that you tell us the story.
Yeah.
How did you become a hybrid publisher
The authors we've talked to tend to
or
be either
author?
in one camp or the other, and it sounds like you've done both or are in both.
I had every intention to be traditionally published. It was the way that I wanted to go. However, I even took out to lunch. I mean, I said earlier about whining and dining. I even took out to lunch the gentleman who wrote the book proposal, or I think it's called book report or something, but he was the premier how to write the perfect book proposal. I had done The Dark Before Dawn in a book proposal, sent it out. I couldn't get arrested. And so I had co-produced a play in Los Angeles with a friend of mine. And one of the songwriters it was a musical, one of the songwriters had published a book. And I'm thinking, you don't even write. How did you publish a book? I'm sitting there knocking my head against the wall, trying to get an agent, trying to get publishing. Oh, I just published. I'm like, what? And he said, there's this thing called Create Space, and it's through Amazon. So I immediately looked it up and I went, oh my God, you can do your own books now. This was back in the day a little bit.
Mhm.
And I did it. I went online and I did it. And the first time I got that proof of all the words in print, it was like, ooh, it was very thrilling. And so I just went with it, and I decided there was not going to be anything that I was going to be barred from. So whatever, like when I called MWA, they said, well, you're self-published, so you can only get affiliate status. You're not going to get active status. And I was perturbed by that. So I would go through the bylaws and I found ways that you could get active status. But what I did was I just continued, and then I published the second book, but it was still bothering me. I still wanted that affirmation of being traditionally published. So I had joined a writers organization called ALLI, and it's the Alliance. Oh, I forgot what it's called. It's ALLI, and you can look it up. And I even know the woman's her name is Orna Ross, but they're based in Ireland, I think. And they were saying that they were having this, not a contest, but that a very prestigious literary agency in London called AM Heath they were looking at independently published authors, and you could submit, and you could possibly sell world rights to them. And so I did it, and I got in touch with an agent, and she at first rejected them. She said they're tremendous reads, but with the economy being what it is, and
Yeah.
so I've heard it. I've heard everything in the book.
Mhm.
So at that time, I had run a promotion, and it was through BookBub, and it became a featured deal. And I got at that time, which now you can get way more, but I got 70,000 downloads of the book.
Wow.
And it also kicked up the sales of the next book. So I only had 2 books out at that time. And I took a screenshot of the Amazon ranking because it pushed me up to like number 2 in thrillers. I mean, I had really great rankings. And I took a screenshot and I sent it to the agent in London. And I said, "Are you sure you don't want to be part of this action?"
Yeah.
I got a contract FedEx like the next day. So
Wow.
I got an agent in London, and it took less than 2 months, and she'd sold the 2 books to Random House. And they were published in the Germanic world, not just Germany. And they were published, and they paid me. I got my best payday through that, and that was fun.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
And so do they still publish, each time you come out with a new one? Are they
they
going through
published
that
the
or?
2, and then I haven't hit them up. That agent left, and I just sort of continued on with my merry way. But it was just kind of a funny thing what I told the MWA, which is the Mystery Writers of America,
Mhm.
is they said, "We don't want to give you active status because you independently publish." And I said, "Have you ever heard of Random House?" And they
Yeah.
said,
That's good.
they said, "That's Random House Germany. Your books have to be available in the United States." And I said, "Have you ever heard of the internet?"
Have you heard of Amazon? A little company called Amazon.
Yeah, you can go to Amazon DE, and you can get those books sent right to your United States address. So
Is
that's
it,
why I
is it the same? I'm sure you must have changed things at MWA, because now I think you can probably be independent,
I think so. They've changed the bylaws quite a bit.
but I don't know exactly. Because we're just the other level, right, Kathy?
So
What is our level at MWA?
unpublished? Oh, I don't know. So this is number 4. So 3 and 4, you're still publishing through the Amazon
Yeah.
imprints, is that, or the self-publishing on Amazon?
Yeah.
And how does that work? Like how much work do you put into the marketing and all of the actual
Right.
marketing? I'm so curious. Because I feel like authors, if you're traditionally published, you still have to work on your marketing. And if you're self-published, you have to work. So I'm just curious, how much time does it take to do the business side of things?
What I've noticed, I mean, I thought with Random House that they would do a ton of marketing for me. And I have to say that it's, I don't know. I
Pretty
think,
lame.
yeah, it was, I mean, it got, one of the books got editor's best pick of the month. But I mean, as far as reviews, like, let's send it out for reviews. I even said to them, I will, if you just tell me where to book it, I will make my own book tour, but I need
Mhm.
your media. And they said, well, it's proprietary. And I said, you just paid me to be an author with you.
Right, like,
Don't you want me to, I'm willing to do the work. But
Mhm.
it was, I don't know, maybe budget.
That's frustrating.
I have no idea. So I figure you have to work just as hard, whether you're traditionally published in marketing or whether you are independently published. The thing about being independently published is that you do have a lot of control. Although my experience with the traditional publishing house, they were very nice, very open. They sent me all the cover art and wanted my approval ahead of time. And I heard that that doesn't usually happen. They tell you what your cover is going to be, but I thought their cover art was fabulous.
Right.
see if I have the book. I have one of them with me. Oh, this was Toda Schold. This is
Oh, that's
by
a good
Blanchard.
cover.
It shows, you can't really tell, but it's the skyline of LA in the back with the
Yeah.
fire and fire. And the one that they did for, let me see if I can find the book. I'm not disappearing. This is the one they did for.
Ooh.
I thought that was really creepy.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that I thought
All
was,
you guys out there, you got to look on YouTube.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
So, but when you're doing the ones yourself on Amazon, you're hiring your own cover art yourself. I mean, what's that process like?
like I said, I have friends. Something I always taught my kids: if you don't ask, you don't get. And I have wonderful friends. One of my friends did the first 2 books, did the cover art, had to put up with all the Amazon stuff. And these are not as artistic, I guess you would say, as the other 2, but these showed up so good as thumbnails when compared to
Right. They're very catchy. Yeah.
And
they're like photograph more than art, you know. I feel like you're like, oh.
They just would stand out. The thumbnail, you know, when you have a zillion books on a page and you're only talking about a little stamp size square, those 2 stood out like bling. And then
interesting.
Then these 2 were done by my friend Scott Templeton. First ones were done by my friend David Vieira, who used to design rock posters. So those were those.
Okay.
This one was done by a reality TV producer, and his name is Scott Templeton, and he is so talented. And he did this one. He bought the prop, the skull, and he put it in a creek, and he sunk an underwater camera and took the picture of it. He's like, that's really underwater, you know? And I'm like, really? You didn't have to do that. Couldn't you just put this on the computer?
That is going above and beyond, or actually below.
Wow, that's really cool. He probably had a lot of fun doing it, though.
He did. Yeah. So no, I have some good friends that
well, that's great.
Family affair.
It's fascinating.
Well, we're impressed.
I know. I love hearing everyone's different winding roads to getting their book into readers' hands. And I think that's so fascinating. So it's been fun hearing that. Christy has a final question for you, I believe.
Okay. Yes. So we asked this of all our authors, and it appeases our foodies out there. Which of your characters would you like to share a meal with, and what would it be?
Oh, it would definitely be Gabriel, because he's an amateur gourmet chef.
Oh, that's true. Is he going to cook it for you too?
I would definitely ask him to cook it. Oh yeah, he'd be a much better cook than me. For sure.
I loved how he chose all of the food for his wedding and was concerned about everyone's opinions about it. I love that.
Yeah. Well, he's still insecure.
Yeah. Right.
So what do you think he would cook you?
Wow, I know he makes birria, but I think I would probably have him make salmon in paper. Salmon, it's called.
Oh, like a papillote. Yeah.
And because that's actually one thing that I think I have him make. And
can we come too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
That's
Laurie.
great.
Our listeners are going to want to find out more about you and your books. What's the best way for them to do that?
You could go either to Amazon or Barnes and Noble. I'm listed there, or BookBub or Kobo. But if you want to, my website is www.lauriestevensbooks.com.
And that's with a V. Stevens with a V.
Stevens with a V, and Laurie, Lauri. I've gotten it many different ways. Anyway, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
pleasure.
Thanks for coming. This has been a lot of fun, and I'm so glad we had a Malbec, and that was fun too. So I guess we can just say cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.